what she went through to get to a different place. You know, sometimes we wonder today in this time period, why do people cross the water? Why would they leave another country to come here? Ain't nobody crossing that water just because they like it. Folks are bringing their children that are bathed in their arms just because they like it. It is the only way they know for freedom. It was her only way to keep her child. What would we do? What would we do to hold on to our young ones? Where would we go? Well, I'm glad y'all like this. Y'all go back and look that story up. It's awesome. And information is continuing to try to come out. And the next time I go to Canada, I want to try to go to the place where it is said that she, the community, the black settlement, that she is said to live in. So I'm looking forward to that. But stories like these are not uncommon. Oh, I get to make it a little, you know, I don't have to do a whole lot to make this a very interesting story, because it is by itself. But there's stories like this that are very common using the water. And I want to really talk about the Underground Railroad. I want to talk about how some of these stories came to be, and I want to use a particular source. And a particular source, his name is William Still. How many of y'all have ever heard of William Still? Okay, that's good. Get some good hands up. Very good, very good. There actually was not long ago, okay, maybe pre-COVID, a program on television called the Underground Railroad, and they did, and they actually had him as one of the characters. If you watch the movie Harriet, William Still is in the movie Harriet, or the portrayal of him. So let me tell you a little bit about William Still. I love his story. Oh, but first, before I do anything, let me tell you all about the Underground Railroad. Okay, now, I know all y'all know about the Underground Railroad, but I'm just going to make sure you know about the Underground Railroad. I have learned that it doesn't matter the age, I got to make sure folks know what they know. All right. So the first thing you need to know is the Underground Railroad was not really underground. Now y'all laughing. But my great friend, not great friend, he's not a friend, he's a wonderful man. Mr. Colson Whitehead wrote a wonderful book, and he put the Underground Railroad underground. In historical fiction that sounded really true. And all the years of work I had been doing messed people up. And they were like, but I read a book. I'm like, yes, I know. It's a wonderful book. You should read it. It's fantastic. But the Underground Railroad is not really underground. The Underground Railroad is shh. Yeah. So the Underground Railroad is not underground. It is shh. Secrets. Let's try that again. Underground Railroad is not underground. It is shh. Secrets. Very good. And the Underground Railroad is not really a railroad. Okay. But it's sort of set up like a railroad. Okay. So the people who are running away are the trains of the car. And they are going on a path, in a direction, until they get to a station, which is really a house. And in that station, someone feeds them and gives them clothing, and gives them water, gives them a place to sleep, gives them new clothes, and then helps them as they go on the train, on the path of the train, till they go to the next station, which is really a house, where they get fed and clothed and water and sleep, gives them injections, so they go to the next station, which is really a house. And they keep doing that till they get to their destination. And their destination is the end. So it's kind of like a railroad. And it's not something that had directions written on the back of a milk carton. There was no map. And you all may laugh, but we think about this, and as we think about this, I want you to have this in your head. You do not know who to trust. It's like me telling y'all. What I want you to do right now is I want you to run to Richmond. Somebody's going to be looking for you along the way. But you don't know who's going to be looking for you. And most of you could not walk to Richmond, even though you've driven the road quite a few times. But I want you to think about it. There's no path that's written down. There are things that are shared along the way to help people, but there's no path written down. And there's not certainty at any time. All right, so that's the Underground Railroad. And there were at least 5 routes of the Underground Railroad. We're going to talk about one today. Well, we've already talked about one, and one is through Indiana, and that one would go up to Michigan, and then over to Canada usually. There's one that goes up through Philadelphia, which generally goes over to the East Coast side. New York gets people from there, Connecticut, things like that. There's another that goes another side of Indiana, which is another side of Indiana. And then there is, I'm missing one, 1, 2, 3. There's one that goes, 1, 2, okay, wait, Kentucky, Philadelphia, Kentucky. Ohio River, which is one of them, it doesn't always go to Indiana. Ohio River that crosses over, Philadelphia, and then you have 2 that are in the state of Indiana that go actually 2 different directions. And then we have a route that goes down through Texas to Mexico. Mexico was a safe space, and there were black settlements that were created down right across from where Texas borderline was. So that's another one. Can't wait to be able to get enough money to do that and find out. So that's great. So those are the 5 places. I'm going to talk about Philadelphia. The Philadelphia route is the one that is probably the most well-known because the Philadelphia Abolitionist Society was the most well-known and one of the most wealthy of all the places. Plus, it was right there. Maryland was a slave state, an enslaved state, slave state. And so to get over to anything, you had to, you got to Philadelphia, that was where you would get your freedom. So that's why it's such an important place. And there was a conductor there whose name was William Still. Now, William Still was an African-American man, okay? And he was a man that we actually get to hear his name. Most of the conductors, most of the people who had stations were African-American. But we don't know about them. And the reason we don't know about them is because if they were caught, they didn't just get jailed and a fine. They would be sold into slavery, even if you had never been a slave. That's a much bigger weight. So it was we kept that under cover. But William Still was born in the Barren Pines area of New Jersey. Any New Jersey folks here at all? One New Jersey. She just calmly says, I love New Jersey. I mean, you can tell New Jersey people are not New York folks. Because you're like, yeah, New Jersey. So you're born in the Barren Acres area of New York, Barren Pines area of New York, and that had turned into a black settlement. He was the youngest of 20 children. 20, yes, they were very busy. And his father had been a slave, and his father had run away and made his freedom. And so he sent back somebody to go back and get his wife, and at that time, he had 2 girls and 2 boys at that time. And so he sent back, and they found a way to get the 2 girls and the 2 boys and the mother, and they ran and were caught. And they brought them back. Well, her mistress was ticked, because she was the cook. And so, and there's some people like, oh, you don't mess with the She was the cook. And he actually dug a hole in the ground and put her in that hole in the ground and put a grate over it to teach her a lesson. And then he took her sons and had her sons go out to the field where they had not been, and had her daughters, still in the kitchen area. Well, one day she was sitting there and she started to sing a Lutheran song, a Lutheran hymn. She just started singing it, and he happened to pass by and heard her singing a Lutheran song, and this is what she writes. And he said, and he thought I had reformed my ways because I was singing Lutheran music. Okay? So he lets her out and such like that. Well, it's not long before someone comes along and she can run. She has to run right there. run then with the two girls, not with her boys. What should she do? Some people say run. Why do you say run? Need to get out there, but what about the boys? Gotta get her freedom. Anybody else stay until you get all of her, everybody. You say stay? Why do you say stay?
Because they may do something to the boys to teach her a lesson if she leaves and leaves them there.
So she may never have another chance. So, what should we do? Yeah, this is not an easy decision. And she runs. She takes the two girls with her. They get there. They raise enough money, and they send down a white man to purchase these two boys. And the master is so angry, he has already sold them down south. And will not tell them where. They are lost. They make their time up in the barren pines, and eventually, 28 children later, William comes along. William works at his father's farm, doesn't get much education. He eventually moves down to Philadelphia. There's more jobs there. He does some work. He's a handyman. He does a little this and a little that. Eventually, he educates his own self. There's no tutor that we can see of or that we've been able to find. He educates his own self, and he meets Letitia. They get married. It's lovely. He begins to work for the Philadelphia Abolitionist Society. Just doing some, odds and ends, and eventually becomes their secretary. What the secretary does is the secretary, of course, takes notes. But you're taking notes of people who are arriving. So when people arrive, you talk to them and you ask them questions, and you say things, and whatever is needed. You say, "Excuse me, now did you run far?" Yes. Okay, wonderful. Where'd you run from? Hampton. Yeah, very good. Okay. And was your master kind? No. Oh, okay, very good. Oh, what religion was your master? I always ask about religion. What religion was your master? No. Let us be really clear that there were no atheists that were being reported. I don't think the word atheist is in there. Here are the religions they are reporting: Baptists, Methodists, Lutherans, Catholics, Jewish. Yeah, those are one of those? Okay. So did you leave anybody behind? Yes. Okay. Well, we'll see what we can do to get them. So then they would make these notes, and they would pass these notes to each other at these meetings that they would be at, and they would read them, and then they would make, what was really great was that was how they made their marketing material. Because y'all think we're the first people to ever make marketing material? Honey, they had to raise money. How do you get people from station to station to station? You gotta have some money along the way. So they're raising money, and they would put out these stories, and they would put it out, although they might have the real name and even the real information, no one knew who was actually putting it out. They couldn't arrest just one person. So they would put out this information, they would take that new information, and they would burn it. All right, done, finished, good, gone, all right. And that was done. One day, William Still got a knock on the door. He opened the door. There's a man. Obviously a runaway slave. He invited the man in. The man sat down, he gave him what he's supposed to do. He's at a station, he's supposed to get his food and water and sleep and clothes. He does that, and then when it's time, he says, "Can I interview you?" And the man says, "Yes." He says, "Oh, what's your name?" "My name is Peter." "Where are you from?" "Alabama." "Do you have any family behind?" "Yes, I have a wife and 2 children. I'm hoping that we can get them." "Okay, great. We'll try to work on that." "Is there anyone that has run before you?" "Yes, my father ran. He ran, he got his freedom. And then my mother and my 2 sisters and my other brother, we tried to run, but we were captured and we were brought back. And then my mother and my two sisters were able to run, but I was sold away. Stay right here. He goes over to the telegraph machine. There's telegraphs during those times. He telegraphs his sister, come here now. Sister gets on the train, comes on down. Sister gets down there, opens up her brother's door, walks in and goes, brother. Wow. That changed everything. That changed everything. He couldn't go around burning nothing anymore. Weren't other people going to come looking for their families? They needed to find their families. Once they were out of freedom, how they were going to find their families? He was burning the way that they could find them. So he said he would keep them. He would keep those notes. So he found a good place to put it. He found a good tight case to put them in. And then he kind of had to hide it. So where did he hide it? Somewhere, a place where, the sheriffs were going to come and get it, pretty quickly. Somewhere where it wouldn't look weird for him to go there. So, give me some ideas. Where did he hide it? Okay, tell me.
In the ground, in the tree.
In the tree. Under the tree.
The bathroom.
In the
outhouse, wherever it is.
Now, the outhouse is an option. But I'm not thinking that his wife is going to be like, not here tonight. So, no, not the outhouse. Where else? Under a plank on the floor. Yeah, if I was the sheriff, I wouldn't look under a plank on the floor. But it's a plank on the floor.
Buried in the ground?
In the church.
Oh, yes, you can hide things, yes, but that would be still the first place I would start working.
How about the chimney church?
Chimney! Yeah! No fire is necessary in Philadelphia! Under the doghouse. I don't know if they had a dog, so I can't help with that. Yes. In a church? That's a great idea. A great idea. Yeah. Graveyard. Ding, 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 ding. Graveyard. And a crypt. Now, there's a good thing about a graveyard. See, the good thing is there's a black graveyard and there's a white graveyard. So no white police officer is going to go walk into the black graveyard. So I'm imagining something like this. He's got his coat on, all of his stuff, pockets full. He walks out. I'm going to go visit her again. Somebody could be following him. I'm so sad. He walks, he gets to the graveyard, he goes across that threshold. Ain't nobody coming by that. But just in case, he gets to the crypt. Well, he knew that he would die before slavery would ever end. He knew he would. And so he prepared for that. Wouldn't you know? They had a war. Slavery, and he was still living. Now he got a bunch of notes. So now what is he supposed to do? Huh? You got to print them? Okay. And how are we doing that? In a what?
You got to write in a book.
Well, you got it on the first guess, but yeah. Play my game as long as I would. It's okay. We're good. That's good. And he wrote The Underground Railroad. S-T-I-L-L. Now, this book is the first of the books that was written entirely about the Underground Railroad. It was written originally in 1872. It sold off the shelves. And they did another print 2 years later, and it sold again, and then it did another printing, and then everybody forgot about it because there were tons of books about the Underground Railroad. You know what happens. And it kind of disappeared. until they kind of reprinted it, not about 20 years ago. They reprinted it and they put it there. And my father, who's sitting over there, my father got a copy of the book given to him. And I went to his house and I borrowed it indefinitely. Thanks, Dad. This has, let me make sure I get the right number here, 558 pages of the smallest print you've ever seen. It's coming, it's coming. Story upon story upon story of those who ran, and not just stories of those who ran. There are places and locations and names. It actually tells the street of one of the people where they live, the address on Brandy Street in Norfolk, Virginia. You know why this was flying off the shelf. It has the details of so much, the stories. He wrote this, he says, because we need to know as a people the rock upon which we have stood, for those who would give what they would for freedom. And so people